At the turn of the 20th century, Haarlem stood at a crossroads between the old world and the new. A city steeped in centuries of history, from medieval guilds to Dutch Golden Age painters. Haarlem entered the 1900s as a calm, orderly community, wrapped in the familiar rhythms of daily life. Narrow streets wove through the historic center. Canals reflected the facades of 17th-century houses, and the great St. Bavo Church cast its long shadow across the Grote Markt, just as it had for hundreds of years. Yet beneath this continuity, Haarlem was beginning to feel the pressure of profound transformation. Around 1900, Haarlem's population was growing steadily. The Industrial Revolution, which had reached the Netherlands in waves, was leaving a noticeable mark on the city. Newer factories appeared, particularly along the Spaarne River, an ideal location for transport and power. Metal workshops, printing houses, textile facilities, and food processing plants expanded employment opportunities, attracting workers from surrounding regions. Foremost among Haarlem's industrial giants was the historic printing house Joh. Enschedé. Founded in the 18th century, it had by 1900 become a world-renowned producer of banknotes, stamps, and high-quality prints. Its presence shaped both the local economy and Haarlem's identity as a center of craftsmanship and technical excellence. The expansion of the railway system accelerated this growth. Haarlem Station, rebuilt between 1906 and 1908 in striking Art Nouveau style, became one of the architectural icons of the city. This new station symbolized modernity. Decorated ironwork, detailed tile patterns, and electric lighting stood side by side with the thunderous presence of steam locomotives that connected Haarlem to Amsterdam, The Hague, and beyond. For many residents, the station became their gateway to a rapidly changing world. As the city expanded, so did its neighborhoods. The early 20th century saw the construction of areas such as the Patrimonium Buurt, Ramplanquartier, and Clever Park, each built to accommodate the needs of a growing, increasingly mobile population. These neighborhoods reflected the architectural ideals of the time: spacious brick houses, high ceilings, decorative facades, and well-ordered streets. Schools, churches, small squares, and local shops helped shape these areas into tight-knit communities. In many ways, the social fabric of Haarlem was strengthened by this slow but steady urban expansion. Daily life in Haarlem during these years was marked by a blend of old and new. Traditional markets remained vital. The Grote Markt bustled with vendors selling vegetables, fish, bread, fabrics, and household goods. Bicycle culture, already strong in the Netherlands, became even more visible as bikes grew affordable to workers and students. Horse-drawn carts still carried goods through the streets, though slowly they were joined and later replaced by electric trams. Haarlem's first electric tram line opened in the early 1900s, connecting the city center with outlying districts and with the seaside resort of Zandvoort. This connection symbolized a broader change. Haarlem was no longer a relatively isolated provincial city, but a vital node in a growing regional network. Alongside economic growth came social change. Haarlem's citizens grew increasingly engaged in national debates about public health, labor rights, and education. New schools were established to accommodate expanding neighborhoods. The city invested in modern sanitation systems, improving public health and reducing the spread of disease. Women became more visible in public life as teachers, shopkeepers, factory workers, and community organizers. Newspapers flourished, providing political commentary, local news, and literature. Haarlem was becoming not just larger, but more modern in its thinking. Culturally, the city thrived. The Teylers Museum continued its long-standing role as a beacon of science and art. Its collections of fossils, minerals, paintings, and scientific instruments attracted scholars and families alike. The Haarlem's Kunstkring, theatrical societies, and music ensembles enriched the city's cultural landscape. Concerts, lectures, exhibitions, and festivals brought together people from all walks of life. Haarlem's long artistic tradition, stretching back to painters like Frans Hals, found a new generation of expression in photography, graphic design, and industrial arts. But in 1914, the peaceful rhythms of the city were disrupted. When the First World War broke out, the Netherlands remained neutral, yet the war reshaped daily life in Haarlem. Soldiers were mobilized, stationed throughout North Holland to protect the coastline and vital infrastructure. Refugees, especially from Belgium, arrived in large numbers and were housed in temporary shelters. Families opened their homes, schools repurposed space, and public buildings became relief centers. The city witnessed firsthand the human cost of war. Food shortages soon followed. Trade was disrupted, prices soared, and rationing became a part of daily life. Shops struggled to keep flour, potatoes, butter, and meat available. Long lines formed outside bakeries, and ration cards controlled distribution. Even basic necessities were uncertain. Electricity was occasionally limited, and coal shortages made winters difficult. Haarlem endured these hardships with resilience, supported by community initiatives and charity efforts. Although spared from bombing or invasion, the city was far from untouched. When the war ended in 1918, Haarlem, like much of Europe, longed for recovery. The years that followed, the 1920s, were marked by renewed optimism. The population continued to grow, and the city expanded westward and northward. New housing developments were guided by emerging ideas of urban planning, focused on light, air, and community space. Streets were widened, parks were improved, and public services modernized. Technological progress brought excitement. Radios became household items, transforming the way people learned about the world. The automobile, once rare, began to appear more frequently. Taxis, delivery vehicles, and commuter cars all became part of city life. Haarlem's roads, built for bicycles and carriages, had to adapt to this new presence. Electric trams expanded their routes, linking industrial zones with residential districts and enabling workers to reach their jobs more easily. Economically, the city prospered. Factories modernized, businesses expanded, and new industries took root. Haarlem became a center for printing, textiles, food processing, and technical manufacturing. Shops flourished in the city center, while cafes and cinemas became gathering places for leisure and entertainment. The city's nightlife, modest by modern standards, reflected a growing sense of modernity. Dance halls played jazz, cinemas showed films from Hollywood and Germany, and young people embraced fashions and trends from abroad. Education also advanced. Haarlem invested heavily in its schools, libraries, and training centers. New pedagogical ideas emphasized practical skills, creativity, and civic responsibility. Sports gained popularity across social classes. Football clubs attracted thousands of supporters. Cycling races drew crowds along the roads to Bloemendaal and Overveen, and athletic competitions filled local fields. These activities helped shape a new, more interconnected community identity. But the optimism of the 1920s did not last. In 1929, the global economic crisis began. Its effects reached Haarlem by the early 1930s, bringing unemployment, poverty, and uncertainty. Factories reduced production or closed entirely. Shops struggled to survive as purchasing power collapsed. Families who had felt the benefits of modern life suddenly found themselves in hardship. Lines for public assistance grew longer, and social tensions rose. Municipal leaders attempted to soften the crisis through work programs, infrastructure projects, and welfare support. Roads were repaired, canals cleaned, Parks improved, not only to modernize the city, but to provide employment for those in need. Churches, unions, and neighborhood associations organized relief efforts, offering meals, childcare, and community support. Haarlem's social fabric was challenged, but not broken. Culturally, despite economic strain, the city remained active. Local artists continued to produce work, exhibitions were organized, and newspapers kept the public informed. Theaters and cinemas remained open, offering distraction and entertainment during dark times. Haarlem's intellectual and cultural life demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity. By the end of the 1930s, Haarlem had been transformed. The city that had entered the century as a quiet, traditional community had become a modern urban center, shaped by industrialization, technological progress, social reform, and global events. Its streets carried electric trams, its homes glowed with electric light, its citizens listened to global news on radios, and its workers labored in modern factories. Yet through all this transformation, Haarlem retained its historic charm. The medieval center, the grand churches, the canals, and the intimate neighborhoods that defined its soul. As Europe moved toward the uncertainty of the late 1930s, Haarlem stood both proud of its progress and aware of the fragile world beyond its borders. It was a city shaped by continuity and upheaval, tradition and innovation. A city that embraced modernity without losing sight of its historic identity. A city that endured. A city that transformed. A city standing at the threshold of a new era, just before the world would once again be plunged into darkness.